Welcome to the Candidates Forum for the Winfield Village Trustees, sponsored by the Wheaton League of Women Voters that includes Warrenville, West Chicago, Winfield, Wheaton, and Carroll Stream. My name is Barb Lymans and your moderator this evening. I do live in West Chicago, so I will not be voting for any of the candidates participating in the forums this evening. In addition to the Park District and Village Trustee forums that will be held this evening, we had hoped to have a forum for the mayoral candidates and District 34 school board candidates. Sadly, the mayoral candidates, Bruss and candidate Sorgatz, were unable to attend due to conflicts in their schedule. The D34 school board candidates did not respond to our invitation to participate. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither endorses nor supports candidates or parties for office. The League's purpose is to promote civic responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government and civil discourse. Providing forums is a major mission of the League of Women Voters, so the community can become better informed about the issues and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. The forum tonight is a candidate forum and not a debate. Candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts, and their responses reflect their own views and opinions, and will refrain from commenting on the views of other candidates. The candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth up to this forum. All candidates attending tonight have assigned and returned the ground rules by the deadline established in the invitation. These rules specify the format, time limits, broadcasting of the forum, and other rules related to the conduct of the forum. The candidates will begin in alphabetical order with their 2-minute opening statement. They will then alternate the order in which they answer questions for 1 minute. After the question portion of the forum, each candidate will give a 1-minute closing statement. So candidates, you will see a 1-minute sign, then 30 seconds, then 15 seconds, and then stop. Okay. Members of the League will be acting as timers, and I will enforce the time limits. Should a candidate exceed the time limit, I will ask them to finish their sentence and move on to the next candidate. We have a multitude of questions from the community in advance of tonight's forum. To ensure that questions represent a balance of topics, a panel of experienced League members have reviewed the questions submitted for appropriateness, applicable to all candidates, and to avoid duplication. We will do our best to read each question asked within the time frame allotted for tonight's forum. We're grateful to those in the community who have taken time to learn more about the candidates before casting their vote by attending or watching candidate forums. For those in the attendance this evening, we ask that you listen attentively, turn off your phones and electronic devices, avoid commenting or disrupting others during the forum, and refrain from applause until the end of each forum. Finally, I want to say how appreciative we are of the candidates who are not only willing to serve in office, but who agreed to be here tonight to share their ideas and goals. So let us get started and hear from the Winfield Village Trustee candidates. We have Daniel Janovic, Harold Lonks, Deborah Piscola. Robert Greer did not respond to the invitation, and Victor Allen and Linda Watson were unable to attend due to conflicts in their schedule. So let's begin with our opening question. So candidate Janowick, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you so much, Barb, and thank you to everyone here tonight, and a special thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting. I think the ability to provide information for voters so that they know and can walk into a voting booth informed is a big service to the community, so I'm appreciative of that. My name is Dan Janowick. I'm honored to be trying to earn your vote for the Village of Winfield Trustee to be reelected. I've previously served 2 terms or been elected twice as a Winfield Park District Commissioner and was elected in 2020 as a Winfield Village member of the Winfield Village Board. And really, I believe in serving. I think that that's the reality of why I'm here tonight. My wife and I moved to Winfield almost 15 years ago today, and we chose to raise our boys here and raise our family here, not only because of the small town charm, because Amanda grew up here, because it's the proximity to such beautiful green space in the forest preserves, the Metro line. I really think we saw the potential, and we really wanted to be a part of a town that has the ability to be one of the most desirable places to live in the western suburbs of Chicago. Professionally, I serve as the executive director of a nonprofit organization here in DuPage County. We provide opportunities for families to prosper through access to programs that foster health, build relationships, and strengthen the community. This role has equipped me with extensive experience in managing budgets, thinking about allocation of resources, strategic planning, and community engagement, and I use those skills on the village board today. I'm running for re-election, first of all, because I do believe that getting involved in your community is everyone's responsibility. I think I've gained a lot through coaching, more than a dozen years in Winfield. And if I double check, it's 1 minute or 2 minutes on the opening statement? Okay, thank you. I've been co-president of the Winfield School PTO. I've co-chaired the School District Referendum Committee. I'm a member of the Rotary Club, and I've also been a member of a suburban chamber of commerce. And so I do think that getting involved is one of the most important things that we can do.
Thank you. Candidate Lux.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for hosting the candidate forum tonight. I'm Harold Lonks, running for Winfield Trustee. I've been a resident in Winfield since 2009 and served the community. I'm married and have two girls that grew up here. We're very happy with Winfield, and one of the reasons when we relocated, we picked Winfield because of its location and, like Dan says, the open space and the schools. I've served the community since I've been here. In 2022, I was appointed to the Village of Winfield Administration and Finance Committee. The committee's big task is working on a yearly budget. As part of the budget cycle, I have a good understanding of the village revenue streams and how it's being spent by the different departments. Also, the committee worked through many water and sewer issues, which includes the water price increases by the city of Chicago, upgrades to the water treatment plant in West Chicago, water main replacements, and then the water meter and related software upgrades. I'm also part of the Winfield Foundation. This organization brings events to the village so residents can enjoy concert nights, Summerfest, Criterium, and holiday tree lighting. And last year I completed a 5-year term on the CUSD 200 Citizens Advisory Committee, and prior to that on the CUSD 200 Enrollment Committee and Community Engagement Committee. I have a well-rounded business background. I've been working in accounting finance degree for decades. I'm ready to take the next step to becoming a village trustee and help guide Winfield into the future. And I hope you enjoy your evening with us tonight.
Thank you. Candidate Piscola, your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and a huge thanks to the League for hosting this forum tonight and for the Park District for allowing the use of this room. My name is Deb Piscola. I am currently in my first term as village trustee. I have been a resident of Winfield for nearly 14 years, and to be honest, I fell in love with this community when I was looking to purchase my home. It felt a lot like my hometown back in New York. In addition to serving as village trustee, I am a current member of the Winfield Lions Club, and I volunteer at community activities such as the Winfield Music Nights. There's been 10 over the last 2 years. They've been well attended. The Criterium and Summerfest, and Good Old Days. Professionally, I'm a vice president with a Fortune 30 media and technology company and serve on several nonprofit boards, including Easter Seals of DuPage and Fox Valley and Second City Canine Rescue, where I adopted my 2 dogs. I was appointed by J.B. Pritzker to serve on the Illinois statewide 911 advisory board, where I work across the state with emergency management professionals. I am seeking another term to continue to build upon the progress that has been made over the last 3+ years. Development of a walkable town center with amenities for all residents while maintaining Winfield's small town charm was a goal of mine when I was elected. And also to ensure that we're doing this while keeping taxes low. While we have accomplished many things, we still have a lot more to do. I have a vision to achieve our goals, and I am eager to describe those in greater detail tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our first question will begin with candidate Lonks. What are your visions for the next 5, 10, 15 years in Winfield, including all future development areas? You have, we'll say, 1:30, okay? That's a big question.
Well, I see Winfield in the next 5 to 15 years. One of the biggest things is finishing town center. I mean, we've been working on town center now for a few years. If you look at what town center was 10 years ago compared to today, it's been a huge improvement, what's gone down. And we have a lot more, finishing up to do. I know there's on the drawing board for more residential and businesses structures to come into the town center. And also now with the fire station moving from downtown to County Farm Road, that's going to open up that piece of property for future development to incorporate, within the town center. I mean, the hospital has been a pretty good neighbor of ours, and it does provide a lot of traffic through here. So we should be able to, once these businesses come in, we should be able to retain a lot of business, some foot traffic and business here to help out. And I like to see the some completion of some development down on the Roosevelt Road corridor too. And so far, the only thing down here is the Casey's, and from my understanding, it's done very well. So we just need to continue working down there. And one last development we had was up on North Avenue, the Amazon building, and that actually produces quite a bit of sales tax revenue for the village.
Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Piscola, same question. What are your visions for the next 5, 10, 15 years in Winfield, including all future development areas?
Great question, because I think it's one of the things that the village is really working to define and ensure that we do have continued development to support not only village activities, but to provide residents with what they're asking for and seeking. Certainly, we want to complete the development of town center, bring new amenities, restaurants, shopping, retail into town center. But I think we can't just focus exclusively on town center. I think there are opportunities to continue to develop the Roosevelt Road corridor. We can do that smartly, and we can do it so that it doesn't impact the other taxing bodies. But also, what are the opportunities in the North Avenue corridor? I know that Trustee Candidate Lonks referenced the Amazon. The Amazon facility alone has brought significant sales tax revenue to the village, so much so that since 2015, we've times 4 have increased the amount of sales tax revenue into the village. And the nice thing about it is most of those, if not the majority of those sales taxes, are paid by residents outside of the village. So the opportunity to grow and develop the community shouldn't be restricted to town center. We should look at our northern and southern border as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you for my overnight Amazon deliveries that I'm getting.
You're welcome.
Candidate Janowick, your thoughts?
Thank you. I think the 2 other candidates really summarized it well. I think that the vision for downtown Winfield is something that I think is easy to minimize. And I think the village board right now really has a bold vision for not just one building that brings in a few different businesses, but I think it travels further west to where there's a proposed apartment building in the Winfield Reserve development. I think that goes to that corner where the fire district station currently is. I think that goes further to Prosex, the current property there, and I think it goes west of there. I think the ability to think about downtown in not just a one building way that I often hear people think about is something, and it goes south of the tracks, right? There's businesses and properties that I think the village board right now is thinking about, and we want village residents to think about it that way, that there is really a bold and broad vision for what downtown Winfield could be. I think the other 2 areas that have been pointed out are exactly right. I think Roosevelt Road, the ability to continue to expand south of Casey's to the northwest corner of Roosevelt Road is important. I think the way that we think about annexing potentially unincorporated areas in the North Avenue and St. Charles Road area are areas for development where we can bring amenities and or build residents. And I also think it's important that the village board today wants to do all of those things without raising our property taxes. And that's one of the priorities that you'll continue to hear if you watch village board meetings, that we want thoughtful development without raising people's taxes.
So it kind of as a follow-up question, and we'll begin with candidate Piscola, is what specific steps are the city taking to attract new businesses to the areas that you've all talked about?
So first of all, we are rebranding the village. I don't know if anyone's noticed all the new village monument signs. I hope everyone thinks they look great, but I think it's a great step in making sure that everyone knows that we are looking towards the future, that we are truly a place to discover. Secondarily, I think we are actively engaged with the business community here in Winfield. We're an active member of the Chamber of Commerce, and we are constantly seeking ways to assist businesses, whether it's through our facade grant, whether it's through TIF assistance. We want to be supportive of our business community. I think we're starting to see the results. So Sweet Reserve Bakery is getting ready to open. Sugar Mama's Mini Donuts just opened. Love the donuts. As well as we're seeing some other businesses interested in coming in. So I think the total effort is really making sure that the village is getting the word out there. We're open for business.
Candidate Janowick.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that Trustee Piscola mentioned that I'm going to just think is one of the most significant changes is that we're trying to change the image of Winfield. There's been a long time where the village administration and village leadership has intentionally not developed certain areas and not been interested in further development. And I think one of the first things we need to do is make sure people understand that we are interested in development, that we do want to take this town we're now over 10,000 residents. I think that's a milestone that, we are a small town, but we want to be able to bring businesses in. I think the ability to support the businesses that are here through some of the initiatives that Trustee Piscola mentioned in our TIF, the ability to provide TIF incentives, the ability to provide grants to existing businesses, make people know that this is a place where you can open a business. And I think that momentum that's formed right now is brought some businesses to town, or has brought some businesses to town. And I think we need to continue to do that from a community development perspective with our village staff.
And Candidate Laux.
Yes. I know the village has hired consultants and stuff to go out and look for businesses to relocate here to Winfield. Over the years, there's been a push for the village for smart development. And as far as planning for it, I know the village a few years back ran water mains down County Farm to St. Charles. So that corridor along St. Charles could be eventually annexed into the village and be developed. They want to put in businesses that kind of fit the image of Winfield, and not just put up bring any type of business in. So we've been very proactive in looking for businesses and developing them, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Candidate Janowick. Continuing along this development theme of questioning, as development occurs, how will you work with other taxing bodies to mitigate the impacts?
Sure. I think that one of the things that one of the things that originally got me involved was the lack of community mindedness of the village of Winfield. And I think our previous administration was interested, for example, for the TIF 2 plan, was interested in creating a plan that benefited the village and the village only. And I think that when the 2020 election came around, you saw trustees come in that really didn't think that a village alone stance was the right thing. And we pushed immediately for there to be a revenue sharing agreement. And I think that type of community mindedness and interest in providing opportunities for all of the taxing bodies to benefit from development is something that this board has been really interested in today. And the reality is that's relationships. And so we should be building good relationships with all the other taxing bodies. There is lots of development opportunities. We might be landlocked in some ways, but there is opportunity for us to continue to grow. And that doesn't just help the village government, that helps our residents, and that helps all the taxing bodies when we do.
Candidate Laux.
Regarding the other taxing bodies in development, as far as my knowledge goes, most of the other taxing bodies within the village of Winfield, they get most of their funding from property taxes, where the village gets more money from sales tax and other type of taxes that get generated by the businesses. So I know there's been a lot of talk about the TIFs. The TIFs allows a mechanism for us to make a development without costing the taxpayers additional costs to them. It's being funded actually by the developers themselves. It's just a mechanism that allows development to be funded by the developer over time versus instead of us funding it up front.
Candidate Piscola.
Thank you. I think, first and foremost, I want to let everyone know, I think if we were to contemplate putting in another TIF, and we're not, by the way, we've never had those conversations, the first thing that we would want to do is ensure that communications between the village, the other taxing bodies, remains open and transparent, that we develop the ability to speak to each other and have real conversations about what are their concerns as opposed to what the village is hoping to achieve. And how can we best help each other out and avoid any future, hurt feelings or discrepancies. I think creating that open and transparent conversation will go a long way. I think the other taxing bodies can stand to benefit from develop opportunity, and certainly we want them to be on board with it as well and see that opportunity for what it is. Thank you.
You all have delved into an area of where we received many questions, is on the TIF 2 district. So major question, if I can summarize them, is if the village loses the TIF district lawsuit, how will it impact finances, particularly if some of the TIF 2 funds have already been spent and may need to be repaid? And we'll start with candidate Lonks. Sure. If the village loses the TIF district lawsuit, how will it impact finances, particularly if some of the TIF 2 funds have already been spent and may need to be repaid?
Okay. From my understanding with the TIF 2 lawsuit, I don't think they're trying to dissolve the TIF 2. My belief is it's regarding how the TIF 2 funds are going to be spent. And the main issue with the TIF 2 is the school district is opposed to spending any of the TIF money on relocating the village hall and the police department to a new facility. So as far as what's been paid out, like I said, the TIF 2 was approved and it's there. Like I said, I just believe that what the issue is how the money's being spent out of the TIF.
Candidate Piscola?
So this presumes that we go into we go to trial, the trial comes to a conclusion, and the village loses a lawsuit. I would like to first of all state that I am hopeful we don't take that step, that we can still reach an amicable settlement. I think that's still within the realm of possibility. But in this scenario, if the village were to lose, how does that impact? Well, I think first and foremost, if the village loses the TIF 2 lawsuit, we probably lose the Winfield Reserve apartment complex. I think that's the first thing the developer will walk away. Secondly, how would we repay? Well, right now, the only expenses that have been issued for TIF 2 include a $100,000 payment to Sweet Reserve Bakery, and the village can and will make that payment. We cannot make the payment in the event for the Winfield Reserve Apartments, and we have not made any payments to them as a result.
Candidate Janowick.
Thank you, and I think that I'm not surprised you got lots of questions on it. I think it obviously is an important issue in town, and I think I would share it's not a mistake that Trustee Priscoli and I will both lead with the idea that the village has no interest in continuing the lawsuit. And reaching a settlement with the school district is something we've vigorously pursued. And as I mentioned, that's one of the main reasons I got involved on the village board, was not agreeing with the way that the last administration handled the TIF and tried to keep and retain all the dollars for the village. So I think the idea of creating revenue sharing is important. Trustee Piscola laid out the amount of money that's been put forth in the TIF so far. It isn't significant enough to change the village's trajectory, but I do think the biggest losers, if the village of Winfield were to lose the lawsuit, would be the village residents. The inability to make downtown the walkable, wonderful place that we know it can be will be stripped away if there's not an ability to have a revenue sharing agreement with the school district.
Thank you. Following up on that idea is, we had several questions about how will you rebuild or build on the relationships between the village and the other taxing bodies based on relationships with the TIF. We'll begin with candidate Piscola.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think relationships with all the taxing bodies need to be rebuilt. I think, if I were to be reelected, I would certainly want to work on building my personal relationship with each of the taxing bodies, meeting regularly with each of the, are there four school districts in the community, certainly the fire district, the park district, the library district, really ensuring that I am listening to their needs and hearing what they have to say. I think that was a big miss on our part. I'm going to take not all the blame for that, because I was a new trustee, still learning the role when everything I didn't know we'd spend the first term in a lawsuit. But I think having spent 4 years now, nearly 4 on the board, learn from your mistakes. And I think I would encourage us all to have open, regular communication with the other taxing bodies.
Candidate Genowick.
Thank you. I'd almost take the position that I think that there's not a negative relationship with every other taxing body in town. I think the village enjoys collaborative relationships in many ways with multiple other taxing bodies. Do I think it can be improved? Absolutely. I think that needs to be a focus of the village staff and village board, both together. Both need to form relationships from the elected official perspective and from the paid leadership of each of those organizations. They work together every day. The politicians up here will come and go, so those administrators need to have strong relationships where they work together. I do think, and those relationships are important to me. My mother-in-law is on the school board that's in litigation with the school district right now. And I think that there's lots of long-held beliefs and patterns that I see in those relationships that apply to maybe a decades-old village board. I think the village board of today is very different than it was pre-pandemic. I think the people that are involved are very civic-minded. They're very Winfield-minded, and they're not just interested in individual topics. They're interested in helping the village of Winfield succeed for all residents.
Thank you. Candidate Lunks.
Yes, I think the biggest relationship strain is between the village and the school district. My feeling is between the village and the other taxing entities, I don't think it's strained to the point is they want to probably stay neutral, not take anybody's side on it due to what it could cause. But I definitely want to, if I get elected, to solve this TIF issue, come to a settlement, and then we can move on with the development of downtown, and then rebuild whatever damage was done with this lawsuit and what it's caused, for all the different taxing bodies.
Great. Well, we'll move on to the second most popular topic, and that is due to the recent and, as some say, the abrupt departure of the village manager, what process would you like to see for the hiring of a new village manager? And we'll begin with candidate Janowick.
Thank you. That's an important question. I think as I mentioned, there is some reality to elected officials will come and go in towns, and I think the village manager, as essentially the CEO of the organization, is incredibly important. So I think the change in leadership that Winfield will experience, I believe, is something that will be positive. I think the village board will go through an extensive search process, as we should, to make sure that we're weighing candidates across lots of different experience levels, lots of different. And I laugh when I say this because the reality is we need to hire professionals to search for that. As elected officials, there's lots of really impressive professional pathways on the village board, none of which is hiring municipal leaders. And so I'm glad that we'll be able to engage a professional search firm to lead us through that process and give us the ability to provide input. But I think that it's an incredibly important topic, and I hope we spend the right amount of time to give it its due credit.
Candidate Laux?
Yes, it came quite as a surprise that the village manager is leaving us. We have an interim village manager. He brings a lot of experience with him. I think that's a good step, and he has a 6-month contract going forward to help us out in the meantime until we do a search. From my understanding is a village manager, you have to have certain qualifications and certifications, and that pool of candidates is very small. So actually, considering what happened with the interim one, it became a blessing to us because he comes from a little bit larger village than Winfield, but he has quite a few years' experience too. So I think he'll be a good asset to us, and he might bring some other good ideas up from the place he came from. So I like the direction we're going, and going then to a pool of candidates and seeing which one comes out on top.
Candidate Piscola?
Thank you. I would agree. I think a full search is required and absolutely necessary. We want to bring in the best candidate for this role. I think having the ability to really spend the next 6 months bringing on board a fully qualified candidate who will do well for the village is a good thing. I also think having an interim with the qualifications that the interim manager does have is a good thing. Now that I want to make it perfectly clear, that doesn't mean I think he's going to end up being our new village manager. I think that will be the result of the search, as well as determining, who is the best candidate for that role.
Excellent. Another question that we have for you is, what infrastructure projects, roads, utilities, transit, do you believe need attention in Winfield? And we'll begin with candidate Piscola.
Thank you. I think there are a number of infrastructure projects. First of all, for those of you who go to Wynwood Park, I don't know if you've noticed that bridge is down to 1 lane. So that bridge over the DuPage River does need to be repaired. Now, we do have some grants from the state in order to assist us with that, but we do need to rebuild that bridge, and it's already going through some initial design. Also want to note that the roads for this community were rebuilt in 2014. Well, we're more than halfway through that. So now we need to look a little long-term and look at how are we going to fund our road infrastructure. Certainly, we always want to maintain our water and sewer infrastructure. And yes, I'll mention the elephant in the room. Certainly, we want to have funds available to relocate and fund the rebuilding of Village Hall.
Candidate Jenowick.
Thank you. I'll start with that. I think the Village Hall and Police Department relocation and rebuild is one of the top priorities that we have. I think the reality, our facilities aging, our facilities undersized for both the police department and municipal government. We don't have a sally port for our police department. If you don't know what that is, that's a place that provides a safe space for police officers to move prisoners and move those that they're bringing in and out of the police station. And I believe we're the only police station in all of DuPage County that does not have that. We don't have a safe space for processing the people that we arrest. We don't have separated space for witness interviews. We don't have space to accommodate female officers in any way that anybody who's ever been in that facility would consider adequate. it's embarrassing from that perspective that we don't have that. I do think the ability to build that is our number one priority. I also think we've got a great plan in place to keep our roads safe with the plan that's been enacted. And I also think that our water and sewer infrastructure continues to be a priority as we think about what is the future of understanding what is safe drinking water and how do we make sure that we can maintain that for our residents.
Candidate Locks.
Well, since I agree with both trustees here with their infrastructure ideas, I do worry about with the road funding. That was a big issue many years ago when we went for the first round, where like 80 or 70 or 80% of the roads were redone at one time because of the condition. I just hope we don't run into that same issue down the road. And as far as like water mains, I know we have quite a few water mains. Some of the water mains inside the village is close to 100 years old. And I know there's talk about replacing some as a preventive measure instead of repairing them, which is very expensive. It usually comes at the wrong time of the day. And the other issue we have is making sure the water treatment plant in West Chicago meets all the EPA standards and so on. So we do have some projects coming down the road in order to meet future ecology standards.
Thank you. The next question deals with communication to the residents of Winfield. Do you feel that the current communication plan is adequate? If not, how would you like to see it improved? And we'll begin with candidate Janowick.
Thank you. I actually think in my preparation for tonight, I'd consider communication from our village to residents is probably one of our weaknesses. I think that our ability to find ways from a social media perspective, from an email, text alert perspective, it exists, but I don't think that we use it in a way that can be as effective as it should be. I know from on the personal side, I try to keep residents informed through social media updates regularly, and I know that residents appreciate it and think that there is a next step for our village government to take in making sure that residents stay informed from not just elected officials, but from the actual village government itself. So I hope we can take some of those steps in the coming term.
Candidate Locks.
I believe the village does a fair job in communicating out to village residents. The issue is, with communications is, as you well know, is technology keeps changing, and the people you're trying to reach, depending on their age and demographics, they all use different methods of gathering or collecting information. Some people rely on email, some like text, some like social media. So it's constantly evolving and keeps moving too. So it's very difficult to keep on top of this stuff. But overall, I believe that the village does do a good job in getting information out to the residents. And I just, like them to get a little more, try to be more proactive in keeping abreast of the new ways of communicating to the different communities of the village.
And candidate Piscola.
Thank you. I would agree. I think we do an okay job in communications. We have a newsletter that goes out every other month. We do have a Facebook page, but I think there are certain limitations just because our staff size is so small. We don't have someone who can monitor a Facebook page and respond to inquiries. We just don't have staff to do that. So I think I would put in a plug for the Marketing and Communications Commission, which can be tasked with helping to do that. We currently are looking for some new volunteers, so if you're interested, please let me know. And thank you. And also, we can work on developing an overall communications plan. I know we had started one on the MCC, but due to some loss of members, we weren't able to complete it. But I think we can jumpstart it and develop an overall communications plan for the village.
Great. Well, on a more lighter side and recreational side, we do have a question. If elected, will you support community events such as Good Old Days? Candidate Lux, we'll begin with you.
As for the village right now has decided to help fund certain events within the village, and Good Old Days, I believe, gets a contribution to help offset some of that costs, along with the Criterium and a few other events. So I'm in favor with that because I think it's good for the village. It's good for bringing people to the village, and it's just economically and for the statue of the village, I agree with spending some money on marketing and supporting like good old days.
Candidate Piscola.
Oh, absolutely. I think the village took the time to invest in, for instance, Riverwalk Park. And as a result, we now host music nights. We had 4 music nights the first year it was open, 6 the following year for a total of 10. I know the Park District has held movie nights there. So I think that's a wonderful partnership between the village and Park District. But certainly I think the one thing that we have heard from residents time and time again is, can you bring in more amenities? Can you do more things? And I think we have the ability to do that, and absolutely would support community events, whether it be Good Old Days, the Criterium and Summerfest. I look at the Winter Wonderfest that was held. Did everyone see the big Christmas tree that was in front of the medical office building, and enjoyed the evening activities that night? Had to be close to 200 people, and I'm sure that will grow over time. So 100% in support of community events.
Candidate Janowick.
Absolutely. I think there's that change that you saw in the village's interest and willingness to not just be in support of village events, but to fund them and to be a part of them making them a success is not an accident. I think that's something that the new village board over the last 4 years has prioritized. I think we see the value to residents and we see the value to our businesses. So I think so Good Old Days, absolutely. Criterium, absolutely. The music nights, I think everybody loved it. I think what a fun time for the community to get together, all ages, all interests. I think was so much fun. You see things that the chamber is doing that I hope the village continues to collaborate on. You see the chamber doing lots of exciting things with craft shows, the farmers market, car shows. And I think that will continue. The village is very interested in making sure that Winfield sheds that reputation of what used to be, they used to wear it as a badge of honor to be called a bedroom community where you live here and go everywhere else to do things. And I don't think that's what our residents want anymore.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Candidate Piscola. Are you at all concerned with the increased traffic that is bound to occur as a result of increased development? What are the plans to deal with that increased traffic?
Ooh, great question. I think we have seen a modest increase of traffic as a result of the Winfield station. Not impactful, but modest. And I'm sure we'll see a modest impact as a result of Winfield Reserve. I think what I'm more concerned about is the hospital and the amount of traffic that the hospital is moving to this location. I happen to live in the neighborhood near the hospital and routinely see people cutting through the neighborhood streets to get to the hospital. I'm a little more concerned about that, not because, it happens to be in my neighborhood, because people in the community have told me about that. So I think we can step up some traffic enforcement to help mitigate some of the folks, probably not residents of Winfield, who are using our side streets to cut through to get to the hospital.
Candidate Janowick.
Thank you. That is a good question. I think that's one that I would say I think of, again, as we think of development broadly, I think when it comes to developing the north and south sides of town, I think those roads are absolutely able to handle the added capacity. I think another thing I've learned since being on the village board is I would say when the Winfield Station apartments came to town, I was skeptical when we had a traffic study done and an expert stood up there and said, you know what, it's really not going to make that much of a difference except for these small windows of time. And we were worried, and I have kids at District 34, I had kids at District 34 at the time, and the experts were right. And so I think they were right that it hasn't been a meaningful or noticeable difference. I think the big difference that we need to be prepared for is that continued expansion of downtown businesses. And I think we will, again, rely on the experts who do this for a living. And I also think that there is, when we run into things like the construction on Geneva Road, we should also think about how do we get more involved when the county schedules projects like that and diverts lots and lots of traffic to our downtown. So I think that more closer relationship to our partners will help us be better prepared for those strange times rather than just the day-to-day.
Candidate Lux.
He mentioned traffic studies, And I agree with him what he had to say about Winfield Station. You know, considering the size of the project and what was there before, the materials place, I was shocked that the amount of traffic really didn't increase that much after it was built. I think our biggest concern with traffic is actually the train. The train causes more traffic than any other buildings or structures going up. And unfortunately, because we're located close to the West Chicago yard, there's not much we can to avoid some of the traffic, the train issues. And the other thing we got to really look at too is when we look at developing town center is parking. I mean, the parking should be more on the outskirts of town center versus being right in the middle. And this will offset some of the traffic issues that we could have around the center of High Lake and Winfield Road and Jewel and so forth. So that's my feelings.
Thank you. We'll begin with candidate Janowick, and the question is this. What are your plans to maintain open space in light of increased development?
That's a great question. I think open space is something that, as I mentioned, that drew me to Winfield. The open space that we have is why our family chose here. So I think that the reality of some of the development opportunities we have is that it won't take away open space. I think part of the development that has been done in the past few years has been maintaining open space, such as Riverwalk Park. We're proud that the village was an OSLAD grant recipient this past cycle, so we'll be expanding that park this upcoming year. So we're, as part of the development plan, increasing the space available that isn't just new businesses. And we'll also see, or you will see, as part of the downtown development, is the town plaza. So there'll be a plaza that's built in as well, because we want to have places where people gather rather than just more businesses and parking lots.
Candidate Lonks?
I mean, this is a very unique community. We do have a lot of open space around it. And I live in Klein Creek. I was on the president of the Homeowners Association a few years back when we were having issues with the golf course and doing a lot of the research on the ownership of the golf course and what can be done with it. There was a lot of rumors going around. I worked very closely with the village. And believe it or not, that whole golf course is deeded to open space. So that, Klein Creek Golf Course cannot be developed except for where the clubhouse is and where the maintenance shed is. So, there is a lot of open space around, and also we're adding open spaces along Winfield Creek in the floodplain. I know the village over the years has been buying out homes and stuff because of the flooding. So that's also adding additional open spaces in the area too.
And candidate Piscola?
I would agree. I think the village has done a good job of maintaining open space. We invested heavily in Riverwalk Park. I also know that the development opportunities that avail itself are pretty much what I would call infill. So locations that are already developed and that will be redeveloped. I would agree that the public plaza will be a good open space for generations to come. I think the one area that is currently open that we would be amenable to development, or at least I would be that intersection of St. Charles and County Farm, which is adjacent to the industrial park, but is currently open space. I think that would be an area that we would certainly want to develop. But once again, the Forest Preserve District is literally right across the street, so there is still excellent open space opportunities for our residents.
Thank you. Someone would like you to discuss a little bit further about the possibility of the village developing the land where the old firehouse building sits on South Winfield Road by Roosevelt Road. And we'll start with candidate Lux.
Well, I know the firehouse finally got their referendum passed, and they're moving over the county farm location. I know that corner lot's going to be open for development. I also know there's discussions. I believe there's discussions going on with either Chase or whoever owns the property that Chase is located on. So there could be a development of that whole corner as one lot or one project. So that's what that firehouse has to go. So I think we need to make something that's core to town center.
And candidate Piscola?
Yes, I think the relocation of the fire station from that corner up to County Farm offers a unique opportunity to place the potential of placing a development there and putting it on the tax rolls, whereas right now it is not on the tax rolls, further benefiting the residents by perhaps having more businesses, maybe, I don't know if there's anything set in stone right now. I don't even think there's been anything that's been discussed. But it's a unique opportunity to, once again, infill an existing location and provide a benefit to the residents with a new development. And also the taxing bodies where we would take something off and put it on the tax rolls.
Candidate Janowick.
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity. That corner is kind of at the core of our downtown, so that provides a cornerstone ability to bring in development. I think I'm still excited for the fire district. When I was co-chair of the referendum committee for the school district 34, we went and did lots and lots of driveway talks in conjunction with the fire district to pass that. So I think that their success, that's the villages, that the village shares and village residents share their success of a new station is multiplied by the fact that can now be land that can be developed. I personally hold the view that I think of the town center there definitely is a benefit that it will put that property on the tax roll. The village is trying to think about it in a way that is inclusive of the Chase Bank property so it can be a full development. But I also think that many of the town center developments, we are bringing more properties onto the tax rolls, but it's also for village residents. And how do we make the quality of life improve rather than only think about it in the way of increasing property taxes?
So I'm going to give you just a chance to clarify because maybe it was the way I read the question, but the questioner is really talking about the old firehouse building that sits on South Winfield Road by Roosevelt, not the town center firehouse. So let's do this one more time. How's that? So Candidate Lux, we'll begin with you again. Could the village develop the land the old firehouse building sits vacant on South Winfield Road by Roosevelt Road?
Well, I know a few years back there was discussion dealing with that firehouse along with the gas station at the corner to redevelop that whole corner as a one parcel. And unfortunately, their property is owned by the fire district, so we don't have much say in what the fire district wants to do with it. I mean, if they're willing to redevelop it or sell it to a developer, we would definitely look to, using that property somehow. But I don't think we could develop it without somehow incorporating that corner property too and utilizing the space more efficiently, because I don't think that firehouse is big enough to really support a good piece of development in that size lot.
Candidate Piscola?
I'm not aware that the Fire Protection District is interested in having that location sold. But in the event that they no longer need it and wish to no longer own it, I think we would be amenable to working with the Fire Protection District as well as a developer to potentially redevelop that corner. Now, my concern, of course, would be it's immediately adjacent to homes. So whatever we put there, we'd want to make sure that it does not negatively impact the homeowners that are adjacent to that location.
And Candidate Janowick.
Sure. I think echoing what my colleagues up here have said, I would say yes. I think the village would be very interested in developing that land, but no, it's not something that we get to decide independently. The fire district has potentially plans, and they've talked about plans to keep that as a storage and/or a training facility, if that's what they need, and it will help them better serve their residents. I think that's something that is a decision that they'll make based on that. Am I hopeful that someday that could be a piece of the entryway into downtown Winfield? Absolutely. I think that packaging that, and we have had in the past interest from developers for the packaged gas station and fire department property to further develop and bring a slightly larger development than if just the gas station was selling. So I think that could be, again, bringing more properties onto the tax rolls. But in the scheme of things, it's the fire department or the fire district's purview to say whether or not they truly need that to serve residents.
So this will be our last question, and it's kind of a free-for-all question. As you were preparing for the forum tonight, you went, oh, I wonder if they're going to ask me about this. I hope that they ask me about this. Now is your time to talk about the one thing that we didn't ask you about that you would like everyone to know. So, Candidate Piscola, we'll start with you.
Oh, this is great. I think one of the questions you asked us for our video that you asked of the other panel, but you didn't ask of us, is how will we maintain congeniality on the board? And I would just like to say, as a village trustee currently working in a group environment to determine policy, it's important to listen and fully understand the viewpoints of not only my fellow elected officials and staff, but staff. We can't reach consensus without understanding each other's ideas and concern. Now, I agree that it's okay to have a disagreement, but it's never okay to be disagreeable. And I think the current village board has done a good job of making sure that our disagreements on policy are not personal nor punishing. I also think it's important to listen to residents' feedback and then to clearly provide my thoughts regarding matters before the board.
Candidate Jenowick, your wish and desire.
Sure. Let's. To be honest, I'd say that one of the things that I expected tonight was some sort of question on how do we differentiate ourselves as candidates. And I think one of the things that I'd note is that there's only 3 candidates up here, and so that's too bad that we have 3 other candidates that are running that aren't here to answer these questions. And I think that's too bad. I think that's a disservice to the residents. I would say, or what I would have said if they were here, is that I'd like to know what their interest is in running, because I think that service to the community is important. And what I fear is that you get single candidate or single issue candidates who want to come in and tackle one issue and don't have interest in serving the village of Winfield fully. We've talked a lot about Town Center tonight. We've talked a lot about Roosevelt Road. I think that Winfield goes really far north, and we haven't talked a lot about those areas and the issues that affect them quite as much in District 200 specifically. But I do think that there's the village should want candidates that want to represent all the residents and all the views and not just single issues.
Thank you. Candidate Locks.
Well, since it's a free-for-all, I totally agree with what Dan had to say. I wish the other candidates would have showed up too and hear their points of view and why they're running. But on one of the questions that I'm surprised that I was expecting, there was nothing asked about transparency. I'm a proponent of transparency. I believe, we should have, everything should be open, discussed in the open, information be available to the public. And like if people FOIA, I believe FOIA should be all posted so everybody can see, the question and then the answers too. So I've been a proponent, and I will push for that too if I get onto the village board too, about transparency.
Great. Well, I think we all need to join together and thank these candidates for appearing here tonight. And it's now time for your closing statements. So we'll begin with Candidate Jenowick.
Well, I think it's really an exciting time to live in Winfield. I believe that my experience, my willingness to serve, and listen to residents is something that can benefit Winfield. I really do think that Winfield is a great place to live. I think you need leaders who are creative, who want to listen to residents, who want to dig into the issues. Is something that this town deserves. We want to keep that small town charm. I don't think you hear anybody on the village board today or myself who thinks that we want to change that, but we want to create an atmosphere where people can come to Winfield. Residents will enjoy our downtown. Residents will enjoy the opportunities we have to develop. And I think that that's something that I'm really excited about in my first term, and I think we can continue to build on in my second term. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Candidate Locks, your closing statement.
Yes. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters of Wheaton for setting up tonight's candidate forum and the Winfield Park District for hosting the forum. It was nice to see the residents that came out tonight to meet the candidates running for the Park District and the Village Board. I hope everybody had an enjoyable evening. I am running for village trustee to continue the progress that has taken place over the last few years. Winfield is a wonderful, small, friendly community. For its size, Winfield is very efficient, providing services needed by its residents. The village also needs to keep moving forward with the completion of Town Center and the settlement of the lawsuit. It is exciting times for Winfield, and I'm ready to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. In Candidate Piscola.
Thank you. I'm seeking another term to continue to build upon the progress that has been made since I was first elected. I have a vision for Winfield that includes adding new restaurants and businesses to Town Center, completing the last phase of Riverwalk Park, continuing to positively brand the village, increase amenities and activities for all of our residents, continuing to maintain the village's strong fiscal position while ensuring that we're working hard to keep taxes low and ensure that the village maintains that small town charm that led many of us to live here, myself included. I believe I am a candidate that can help to achieve this vision, and I'm going to humbly ask everyone for their vote on April 1st. Thanks again to the League for all you have done to make this all happen, and I appreciate everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Our democracy thrives when all of us are engaged. Attending or watching a candidate forum is an excellent way to be empowered to join discussions on local issues and make your voice heard on Election Day. We hope that each and every one of you will vote and inspire your friends, family, and neighbors to do the same. Information on how and when to vote can be found on vote411.org and the Wheaton League of Women Voters website. And to the candidates, thank you so much and best wishes on the campaign trail.
Thank you.
Thank you.